Alrighty guys, collection time. This will be our first collection of the season, so go ahead and swipe everything immediately. Totally kidding, don't do that. I am going to spend a little bit more time on this video just to help set you guys up for the rest of the season, but my subsequent collections in both worlds will go pretty quick from here. So let's look at a couple key ideas here. Observation number one. When I was setting up the city, I ran out of coin, and I left a space for 2 churches and said, if I can get coins in the map, go ahead and plant churches in those locations. Also bought an expansion with shards that I was unable to fill with houses, and I said in the previous chapter, it's okay if you have a few empty spaces, but there is a limit to how much empty space is actually going to be productive. I'm going to be cutting it pretty close in Arbahol. So after I finish K'nir, I'm going to jump over to Arbahol and show you guys that layout. So the minimum requirements that I proposed are, I mean, plus or minus a little bit, but they're there for a reason. You do need to pay attention to that. Here in K'nir, it's not going to be a problem. I did get some surplus coin as well as some extra supplies from the map progress, so that'll help with collection. Priority with your coin on the original settlement is to fill the whole space with as many houses as possible. And if you run out of coin and you have some empty spaces, that's fine. Hopefully you get some coin from the map throughout that first day, and those empty spaces will be filled with churches. The goal of our first collection here is to generate a minimum of 500 alloy. More is better, but a minimum of 500. And try to avoid deleting your estate houses if possible. And the best pattern to do this, 6 tall, 6 wide. You'll delete 9 houses and replace the space with 4 churches. I do recommend that you delete those houses one at a time as you go. Collect and delete, because sometimes just the act of deleting a house will get you into the next threshold of happiness. So from here we can collect and delete 1. Check your happiness as you go. I still need 1,000, so let me get the next group done. I'll be right back. So sometimes just the act of deleting a house will be enough to get you into the next threshold of happiness. So I do encourage you to delete them one at a time. Pretty obvious stuff, but I'll walk you guys through it on the first collection. Once you get the system down, it usually takes about 3 minutes to do collection. So I'm going to finish collecting this. Do not delete your estates, only do your multi-stories. Alright, full happiness now. Let's go ahead and swipe everything left. Remember, the goal of the first collection is to generate at least 500 alloy, hopefully more. We're going to use 1,000 alloy after the first 2 collections to build a bakery following the second collection. So as long as you get 500 alloy on the first collection, we know that we'll be able to get at least 500 alloy on the second collection, but probably more after the changes that we make on this first adjustment. So spend the surplus on gallows following this collection. Goal is to consolidate some of we started with 4 churches originally from the original design, and the original design had a combination of estate houses and multi-story because you start off with a limited amount of coin. But in the first setup, I said, if you have extra coin, plant as many estate houses as you can. So we're going to recreate that original settlement layout, reduce the number of churches that we start with, and then just fill everything else up with primarily estate houses. I would recommend keeping about 10 multi-stories just for the thing to be multiplied. Let me get that set up real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, reconstruction is done. You guys are going to dig this. The goal is to have as many estate houses as possible. Basically, we're just milking the entire original settlement for alloy, so that we can bypass the alchemist completely, jump straight into planting a bunch of bakeries. And then as we do the collect and delete as the season goes on, instead of collecting and deleting houses to replace with churches for the purpose of gaining happiness, we'll start collecting and deleting houses and replace them with breweries for the purpose of multiplying our bakers. And the breweries will never be permanently planted because they're not very productive on alloy per tile or supply production. Their benefit is to multiply the production of something like a baker. So they don't need to be permanently planted. You don't even need to collect them. Just plant them for the purpose of doing your collection and then delete them immediately afterwards. Same thing that we did with the churches. So I generated almost 700 in alloy. So I planted 3 gallows, which leaves 360 alloy remaining. But assuming that I'll be able to generate the same 700 alloy on the next collection, which there's no reason that I would not be able to, since the gallows are now replacing the churches that I had, a few of the churches that I had originally. So there's no reason why I would not be able to generate 700 alloy. Then we'll be able to plant a baker as well as more gallows on the next collection. Like I said in the first part of this, the more estate houses, the better. And I've actually planted enough of them that even at the 20% happiness metric, they cost 16,000 to build, and they're generating 40,000. So even at the 20% metric, they're still coin profitable, and the amount of happiness that I need to reach the next level is 448, but the 3 gallows that I just planted will take care of that. So that's the advantage with the estate house. Number one, there's enough multiplier effect going on here that even though I'm starting collection at 60%, once the gallows are done, the estate houses are still going to be coin profitable. Plus, they'll be generating 6 alloy per house. So definitely going to ramp up the alloy a lot faster on this collection. The other benefit is that the estate houses have less population, and since we have no population demand, we don't need a lot of population. You know, there's really no reason to have multi-stories in this system, aside from the fact that they're cheaper to build on the original settlement. But once we can start moving away from that and just plant all estate houses, it's lower on population, and we're not really going for coin. We already have almost 2 million left over just from the delete and rebuild on the first collection. We already have 2 million in coin, so coin is really not the issue. What we're after is alloy, and the lower population on the estate house means that we're going to have to delete fewer of them to replace with churches before we hit the 150% metric, which means more of those houses will be collected at the 150% metric, giving 15 alloy per house. Does that make sense? I did leave a couple groups of multi-story houses, which with the multiplier effect are giving 130,000 times 18 of them. The primary objective, though, of this first collection is just to generate alloy. In 2 separate collections, we need enough alloy to build a baker as soon as possible. And there's a temptation. I had 600, almost 700 alloy. There's a temptation early on in the settlement. Oh, I got this alloy, I need to ramp up my production, I need to increase my alloy production, so I want to plant some alchemists. Don't. I mean, there's really no justification to do that, honestly. If you get in a pinch and it makes sense for your particular season or your city, that's up to you. But mathematically, it just really doesn't even make sense. It takes 2 days to break even on the alloy production, and you potentially never break even on the supply production. We went over that in the introduction. The math doesn't lie, just avoid it. So that's it for Conrear. Let's go check on Arvalhal real quick, make sure it's still alive. Alright, similar setup here in Arvalhal. I had some gaps from the original construction that I was not able to get enough coin to fill in. Fun fact, collect your town hall first, because you'll get the same amount of resources from that regardless, and that'll give you enough coin to so that's why I said it's not a huge deal if you have a few empty spaces in your city. It's better to plant, if you run out of coins in the opening settlement, it's better to use the coins that you do have to plant houses, because that's the production timer that we're worried about. If you've got to scrape up a few coins at collection time to plant the churches that you need to fill in those empty spaces for the purpose of happiness, that's really not a big deal. The primary concern is just getting the production of the houses started. Alright, mostly done here in Arvalhal. I need 20% or 20 more happiness, and just the act of deleting something is going to provide that for me. I'm going to be cutting it pretty close here in Arvalhal. I started off with maybe 200,000 extra in coin. You can see that I've basically deleted my entire city with churches for the population that I need. Did not have enough coin to start the season off correctly. But it's still gonna buff out. We're already up to almost 200 in alloy from the beginning of the collection. Let's go ahead and grab everything else. Up to almost 2 million in coin, and then a little bit over 550 on the alloy. And remember, the main idea here is to generate 1,000 alloy in 2 collections. If we are able to generate 553 alloy on the first collection, that tells me that I will be able to generate the same amount of alloy on the next collection. But the advantage now is that I have 1.7 million in coin to play with. So similar pattern to Conrear, but here in Arbahol, I'm only going to build 2 gallows. So that's going to drop my alloy down. I might actually only build 1. I'm going to play it safe and only build 1. And let me get this reassembled. I'll be right back. Alright, pretty much reassembled. I do have 1 more space that's either going to be a gallows or an estate house. If I do the gallows, I'm down to 350 alloy, so I'll need 650 alloy on the upcoming collection, but I think that's actually reasonable, considering the amount of houses that I lacked at the beginning of this collection. I was still able to get 550 alloy out of the collection, and had a lot of multi-stories in the mix as well, whereas everything is a state house now. So I don't want that. I said it, but that's not the building that I'm trying to plan. I'm not great at multitasking sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the 2 gallows here in Arbahol. We need 650 on the upcoming collection to get a baker, but the amount of happiness that I need to start the collection at the 60% mark is only 354, and the gallows by itself is going to accomplish 250 of that. So collect and delete next cycle here in Arbahol should go pretty smoothly as well. That's it for the first collection. I don't think I've omitted anything that's more detailed than I'm really planning to do throughout the season. For the first collection, I figured it would be helpful to for you guys to actually see me go through it. Totally comfortable though. I still have over 1 million in coins, so the collect and delete thing, the buildings that we're collecting and deleting only cost coin. Churches cost coin, houses cost coin. Eventually, we'll start planning and deleting breweries as a part of the collection routine, and that only costs coin. So and we're already up to 1.2 million on a baby city. So you really have nothing to lose with the system. The biggest thing to pay attention to is your alloy production. So I still have 300 alloy left. Well, you could have planted an alchemist. Yeah, I could have, and I would have sabotaged the rest of my season. So the guide that I'm presenting to you guys is called the Anti-Alchemist Guide, and there will be no alchemists planted in here, regardless of how much surplus alloy I have. I need 1,000. I want a baker. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning.